Hey, welcome. If you're looking at the markets and thinking the old playbook's been tossed right out the window, well, you are definitely not alone. Things are changing, and they're changing fast. So today, we're going to build a brand new map for 2026. We'll explore the massive forces that are shaking things up, creating some big new risks, but also some incredible opportunities. All right, let's dive in.
So, that's the big question, right? The old rules are breaking down. What's next? Where do we even begin to look? Now, this isn't about giving you a hot stock tip. Not at all. It's about something way more important. Understanding the entire new landscape and the powerful forces that are literally redrawing the map in front of our eyes.
Okay, to get our bearings, we're going to break this down into three massive themes. These are the big ones. First, we've got a changing monetary order, a huge shift. Second, the twin revolutions of AI and energy, which are just game changers. And third, this global search for real growth in a world that's drowning in debt. You get these three things, and you'll see the whole board much more clearly for 2026.
All right, let's jump into our first theme, the new safe havens. Look, in a world that feels more and more unstable, the first question a lot of us ask is pretty simple, right? How do I just protect what I have? But here's the twist. The very definition of what's safe is changing. So where do you find that safety? I mean, really, when the value of money itself is being questioned and the geopolitical map is getting messy, people naturally start looking for assets that are, well, outside the usual system. And this isn't just a flash-in-the-pan fear. No, this is a deep structural shift in how we even think about risk.
And this quote right here, it just nails the new mindset perfectly. Think about something like gold. It's not just a short-term trade anymore. People are looking at it as a long-term structural hedge. A hedge against what, you ask? Well, three big things. First, your money being worth less over time, that's currency debasement. Second, the world splitting up into different political and economic teams. And third, a complete rewiring of how global money works. That's a huge deal.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. We're seeing it happen in real time. Just look at the BRICS unit pilot program that kicked off in late 2025. This thing isn't just another currency. It's a direct shot across the bow of the dollar system. It's pegged to gold and backed by some major world economies. This whole de-dollarization trend, it's exactly why we're seeing central banks around the world buying up gold like there's no tomorrow.
So this search for an alternative really brings two major players into the ring, gold and Bitcoin. In one corner, you've got gold, the old school champion. It's being pushed higher by all that central bank buying, with some analysts eyeing a price tag of $5,000 plus. It's seen as the steady, stable choice. And in the other corner, you've got Bitcoin, the new challenger. Now, it's kind of cooling off after a wild ride in 2025, but it still offers that crazy asymmetric upside. What's that? It just means the potential for huge gains is way bigger than the potential for losses. They're very different for sure, but they're both trying to answer that same fundamental question.
And then you've got silver. Silver is so interesting because it's got this fascinating split personality. You see, only about 20% of it is for investment. The vast majority, almost 60%, is actually for industrial use. That makes silver this really unique bridge. It's part monetary metal, kind of like its cousin gold, but it's also a super important industrial commodity, which actually is the perfect transition to our next big theme.
So that brings us right into theme 2, building the future economy. Because here's the thing, while one pile of money is looking for safety, another absolutely massive pile is being put to work building the next generation of technology. And that building project needs a ton of raw materials.
And if there's one single asset that is the poster child for this theme, it's copper. I'm going to say this plainly, in 2026, copper is arguably becoming the most critical asset for the entire global economy. Period. So why is that? Well, this chart shows it perfectly. It's what we call a step change. Look, we've always needed copper for things like pipes and wires and construction. That's the old economy. But the demand coming from the new economy, we're talking AI data centers, electric vehicles, the whole green energy transition, that's not just a little bit more demand. It's a whole new engine of demand that's massive, it's accelerating, and the market just can't keep up.
And all that new demand is slamming right into a supply wall. This problem didn't just pop up overnight. If you rewind to the 2010s, prices were so low that nobody was investing in new mines. We call that the lost decade. Then you jump to late 2025, and boom, we get hit with a bunch of supply problems in major copper countries. The key takeaway here is this. The shortage we're seeing isn't just a temporary dip. It's structural. It's baked into the system. And that means the fight for every last pound of copper is about to get really intense.
And hey, remember silver's split personality? Well, its industrial side is playing a starring role in this revolution. It is absolutely essential for solar panels, especially with Europe's big 2030 goals. You need it in every single electric vehicle. And because it's such a great conductor of electricity, it's critical for the servers and power systems that make the AI boom possible. It's no wonder the silver market is now in its 5th year in a row of a major supply shortfall.
Okay, so we've talked about playing defense, finding safety, and we've talked about the raw materials needed to build the future. That brings us to our third and final theme, the search for real returns. This is all about finding investments that are solid, not because of hype, but because of strong fundamentals, especially when the usual mainstream stuff is looking, well, a little shaky.
And that leads to a really important question. A lot of the big, developed countries are struggling under mountains of debt. So where do you go to find actual fundamental value? Where are the financial books actually in good shape?
I mean, this chart tells you everything you need to know. It's a powerful story. On one side, you have developed markets. Their government debt is over 110% of their entire economy's output. Now look at the other side. Emerging markets are sitting at less than 60%. That huge difference is the entire argument for looking at things like emerging market debt. Think about it. When it costs more to borrow money, having your financial house in order is a huge, huge advantage.
Okay, now for something completely different, but still driven by fundamentals. Senior housing. And I absolutely love this quote because it just cuts right through the noise. A lot of people hear senior housing and think, oh, it's just apartments for older people. No, it's not. It is a full-on business that just happens to be wrapped in real estate. Once you get that, the whole opportunity opens up.
And it's important to know that senior housing isn't just one thing. It's really a whole spectrum. You start with active adult communities. That's kind of like regular lifestyle apartments. Take a step up and you get independent living, where you start adding in services like meals and housekeeping. Then you get to assisted living, which brings in daily care. And at the very top, you have super specialized memory care. Now, each step up that ladder gets way more complicated to run, for sure. But for the operators who know what they're doing, the potential returns also go up.
So you might be asking, okay, but why is this such a big deal right now? The answer is one word, and it's unstoppable: demographics. The single largest age cohort in American history is marching right into the age where they'll need these kinds of services. This isn't a fad, it's not a short-term trend, it's a massive, multi-decade wave of demand that's just getting started. All right, so how do we tie all of this together? We've covered a lot of ground: the search for safety, the raw materials building the future, and the hunt for real fundamental value. Let's pull it all together now and look at our finished 2026 investment map.
Okay, here's the cheat sheet. This is how it all connects. You see that first driving force, all the monetary change and geopolitical risk? That leads us straight to things like gold, Bitcoin, and that monetary side of silver. Then you look at the second force, the AI and energy revolutions. That shines a huge spotlight on copper and, of course, the industrial side of silver. And finally, that search for fundamental value? That points us toward completely different areas, like emerging market debt and the complex business of senior housing. See how it works? Each big picture force points to a specific set of things to watch.
Look, the whole point of this today wasn't to give you a treasure map with an X on it. It was to give you a new map of the entire landscape. The old roads are getting washed out, and brand new territories are opening up right in front of us. So the real question I'll leave you with is this: now that you have the map, which path will you explore? Thanks for joining me.